Space folded. 12 Valari destroyers ceased to exist. Not exploded, not scattered into debris, simply gone. Consumed by singularities that appeared devoured and vanished in the span of 3 heartbeats. Fleet Commander Krenix stood on the bridge of the Divine Mandate, 4 arms gripping his console, staring at empty void where moments before 12 warships had flown. What? His voice was hollow. 350 years of military command, never seeing anything like this. What was that? On sensor displays, something massive hung in space between his fleet and the human frigates. 2 kilometers of angular death. Black hole drinking starlight. Appearing from nothing like reality, had forgotten it was there. Junior Officer Velkara's hands shook over his station. Fleet Commander. That ship. It's not in our databases. Mass readings are impossible. Energy signature beyond measurement. It's like nothing we've ever... Every alarm on the Divine Mandate screamed at once. Krenix looked at his tactical display, at 215 remaining Valari warships, at the debris field where 12 had been, at the thing that killed them in 3 seconds. He thought about the council vote, about Malthor's laughter, about the certainty that humans were primitive and weak, about how catastrophically wrong they were. The stars had never looked so cold. Captain Thaddeus Korvax stood on the bridge of the UES Revenant, watching the Galactic Council chamber on his main display. 12,000 light-years away, species who had ruled the galaxy for millennia gathered to decide humanity's fate. The decision had already been made. Korvax knew that. Everyone knew that. This was just ceremony. The polite fiction that human voices mattered. Korvax was 38 years old. Black hair touched with gray at the temples. A thin scar traced his left cheekbone, the mark of a decision made 3 years ago. The day his sister died in fire and vacuum because someone made a navigation error. He wore no medals. The operations that would have earned them were classified beyond classification. Simple black uniform, single silver bar on his collar, nothing decorative, nothing that caught light. Around him, 40 crew members worked in near silence, each one chosen for a posting that would never appear on any record, running missions that officially never happened, aboard a ship the galaxy didn't know existed. Admiral Nathaniel Voss stood beside him, 58 years old, gray hair cut military short, deep-set eyes that had seen 3 decades of quiet war. A jagged scar crossed his right temple, gift of shrapnel from a battle that never made the history books. Voss watched the same transmission, weathered hands clasped behind his back, professional calm, but his jaw was tight. On screen, Supreme Adjudicator Malthor rose from his elevated platform. 400 years old by Valari reckoning. 4 arms spread wide in theatrical contempt. Skin like burnished copper. 6 fingers on each hand tipped with ceremonial claws. Eyes black as void. Eyes that had never doubted their own superiority. The Council must address the human expansion problem. Malthor's voice carried the weight of pronouncing sentence. Their colonies spread like infection into territories they cannot defend. I present evidence of human military inadequacy. Holographic displays filled the chamber. Ship schematics, sensor logs, fleet compositions showing Earth's naval forces, ancient vessels, radiation shielding that leaked, engines burning dirty, weapons 2 generations out of date. This is their flagship, the UES Prometheus. The image rotated, boxy hull covered in what looked like rust, weapon batteries belonging in museums. Laughter rippled through the council chamber. 12 species, hundreds of representatives, all finding humor in humanity's weakness. Korvax's expression never changed. Might have been watching weather reports. Commander Elena Cross stood at tactical, 38 years old, auburn hair pulled back severely, green eyes sharp with intelligence. 8 years working with Korvax. She knew his tells, the slight tension in his shoulders. The way his hands rested on the armrests, not gripping, just resting. Ready. On screen, Malthor continued his performance. They named their warship after a god punished for reaching beyond his station. How fitting for a species reaching beyond its abilities. More laughter. The Krell representative made sounds like gravel grinding. The Malathon delegate's tentacles curled in mockery patterns. Voss shifted slightly. Small movement, barely perceptible. Easy, Korvax said quietly. I know. Voss's voice was flat. Doesn't make it easier. At the lowest platform sat Ambassador Ilara Ashford, 40 years old, former intelligence officer. Sharp features giving nothing away. Dark hair cut short and practical. Simple gray diplomatic dress, 6 hours of insults delivered with polite formality. 6 hours watching species who conquered stars before Earth developed fire debate. Human colonies like discussing pest control. Her expression remained neutral. Trained, perfect. Malthor gestured with one of his four hands. The Valari Dominion generously offers protective control of 3 human colony worlds in the Cascadia sector, for their protection, of course. Of course, the vote came quickly. 11 in favor, 1 opposed. Ashford cast humanity's lone dissenting vote knowing it changed nothing. The council had decided before she entered the chamber. Ambassador Ashford, do you wish to make a statement for the record? She stood, gathered materials, movements precise, controlled. No statement. 2 words, delivered with perfect calm. She walked toward the exit, footsteps echoing in the corridor beyond, alone. When certain no one could see, she allowed herself something small. A smile. Cold. Satisfied. The particular expression of someone holding cards nobody knew existed. She touched her earpiece. 1 tap. Nothing more. 12,000 light-years away, Korvax's console chimed softly. Single encrypted burst. 4 words flashed on his private screen. Deterrent protocol authorized. Execute. Korvax read it once. Expression unchanged. Close the notification. Open shipwide channel. All hands. The Galactic Council has voted to authorize military action against human colonies in Cascadia sector. The Valari Dominion will deploy a fleet to enforce that vote. He paused. Let words settle. Our mission parameters have changed. We are no longer observing, no longer hiding. When that fleet arrives at Cascadia, we will be there to greet them. He closed the channel. Voss exhaled slowly, long, controlled. The breath of a man who waited decades for a moment and now found it arriving with all its weight. 47 years, Voss said quietly. 47 years letting them laugh, building in secret, watching them dismiss us. Yes. Korvax looked at the frozen image. Malthor mid-gesture. 4 arms spread wide, and now they learn why we let them laugh. Cross turned from her station. Captain, Valari fleet composition confirmed. 227 warships. Fleet Commander Krenix commanding from Divine Mandate. Korvax nodded slowly. Time to intercept? 4 days at fleet speed, direct route through Valari-controlled space. Set course, match their speed. Stay cloaked. I want us in position 12 hours before they arrive. Aye, sir. The Revenant altered heading. Silent, invisible. A ghost moving through dark between stars. Behind them in council chambers across the galaxy species, who spent half a century cataloging human weaknesses, continued comfortable routines. Attended ceremonies. Made plans. Drew maps of territory they assumed was theirs to take. None looked at empty spaces between stars. None wondered what might be hiding there. Fleet Commander Krenix stood on the bridge of Divine Mandate watching his armada stretch across the stars. 350 years old by Valari reckoning. 4 deep scars crossed his face. Battle marks from campaigns that expanded the Dominion by light years. 4 arms moved with practiced efficiency, checking displays, verifying targeting solutions, ensuring readiness. 227 warships. Heavy cruisers that could crack planets. Destroyers built for speed and firepower. Carriers loaded with fighter craft. Against this, humans had 7 patrol frigates. The math was not complicated. Krenix was a soldier, not a politician. He followed orders. Executed missions with precision and professionalism. When the council voted, he obeyed. But something about this mission troubled him. Junior Officer Velkara stood at sensors. 35 years old, young for a Valari. Ambitious, bright eyes still holding idealism. 7 years under Krenix, learning warfare from a master. Fleet Commander, I must report something unusual. Krenix turned, one hand gestured for report. Military formal. Proceed. 12 scout ships entered human space over 6 months. Standard reconnaissance. Deep penetration. I am aware. What is the issue? Only 3 returned, sir. Krenix's eyes narrowed. 6 fingers drummed against console. Equipment failure. That was initial assessment, but the 3 that returned reported anomalies. Gravitational distortions in empty space. Sensor ghosts. Navigation beacons adjusted by millimeters. Coincidence? Space is vast. All 12 ships, sir. Velkara's voice carried careful doubt. Different models, different crews, different sectors. 9 ships lost to the same coincidence. Krenix was quiet. He had not survived 350 years dismissing warnings. But fear of the unknown could paralyze decision-making. What is your assessment, Officer Velcara? I believe the humans know more than we think. I believe they have capabilities we haven't detected. Based on what missing scouts and sensor ghosts, based on the fact they expanded into Cascadia despite knowing we claimed it first, based on their ambassador sitting through 6 hours of insults, never looking afraid, based on a species with primitive technology somehow maintaining colonies at our territory edge without constant reinforcement. Krennic considered. Velcara was young, untested in real war, but not stupid. Your concerns are noted. However, we have our orders. The Council voted. The Dominion committed. We proceed. Yes, sir. Velcara returned to his station, expression troubled. Krennic noticed. He always noticed. Good commanders knew their crew. The fleet moved through space at calculated velocity. 4 days to Cascadia. 4 days of quiet transit through space, Valari controlled for centuries. Krennic stood at his viewport staring at stars streaming past. Thought about 9 missing scouts. Thought about an ambassador who smiled when she should have looked defeated. Thought about cold certainty in her eyes when she cast her meaningless vote. Something whispered at the back of his mind, the instinct that kept him alive through 3 centuries. The small voice saying danger approaches. He ignored it. Orders were orders. Behind the Valeri fleet, keeping perfect pace at 400 kilometers, something that wasn't there adjusted course to match. The observation deck of UES Revenant showed the universe in cold beauty. Stars scattered like diamonds on black velvet, nebulae glowing distant, the infinite dark between all things. Captain Korvac stood alone at the viewport. Reflection ghosted against stars. Gray at temples catching faint light. Eyes focused on something distant only he could see. The door opened softly. Admiral Voss entered, moved to stand beside him. 2 men who worked together 15 years, who trusted each other with secrets that could change the galaxy, who both paid prices most would consider too high. Silence for long minutes, comfortable with it. No need to fill quiet with meaningless words. Finally, Voss spoke. You're thinking about her. Not a question, a statement. 3 years, Korvac said quietly. 3 years since Valari accidentally bombarded Archimedes' research station. 47 civilians killed, my sister among them. Accidental, Voss repeated. The word carried weight. That was their official statement. Navigation error. They paid compensation. 5,000 credits per casualty, as if credits could replace lives. Korvac's hands clasped behind his back. Military formal. Knuckles white. I joined Guardian program the next day. Volunteered for every mission. Spent 3 years learning these ships, their capabilities. How to use them. Not for revenge, Voss said carefully. No, Korvac's voice was firm. Justice, there's a difference. Revenge is personal, emotional. Justice is necessary, proportional, professional. Voss nodded slowly. He understood. 30 years of decisions that cost lives. 30 years carrying weight. The Valari don't know what's coming. No, they don't. Are you ready for what happens after? Korvac turned to face him. Eyes steady, clear. I've been ready since I buried an empty coffin. Since they told me there wasn't enough left to send home. Since I stood at a memorial and heard them read 47 names and call it an accident. He paused, drew breath. But this isn't about her anymore. It's bigger. This is about every human who died because the galaxy thought we were too weak to matter. Every colony paying protection, money to pirates. Every insult Ambassador Ashford sat through. Every vote we lost because we lacked strength to demand respect. We have that strength now, Voss observed. We've had it 47 years. We chose not to use it, chose to build in secret, to prepare, to wait until demonstration would matter most. And that moment is now. That moment is now, intercom chimed. Cross's voice carried through. Captain to bridge, receiving tactical updates from Cascadia Defense. Both men moved toward the door, professional, efficient, men who had done this 1,000 times. The bridge showed controlled chaos, crew at stations, screens displaying multiple data streams, forward display showing tactical overview of Cascadia system. Cross turned as Korvac took his command chair. Captain Octavia Reeves reports defensive positions established. 7 frigates in formation. Cascadia defense grid at full power. Civilian evacuation 73% complete. Time until Valari arrival. 16 hours, sir. Korvac studied the display. 7 small icons representing human frigates. Brave ships, good crews, completely outmatched. Signal Captain Reeves. Inform her we're in position. We observe until rules of engagement are met. If Valeri attempt planetary bombardment, we intervene. Until then, hold ground and trust the plan. Aye, sir. Voss leaned out closer, spoke quietly. She won't run. I know. Would you? Oh, no. Neither would I. That's why they're out there. That's why we're here. Hours crawled past. Korvax watched countdown, watched Valeri fleet approaching on long-range sensors, watched 7 human frigates holding their impossible line. At 8 hours remaining, he addressed the crew. All hands, in 8 hours Valeri arrive at Cascadia. They demand surrender. Captain Reeves refuses. They threaten bombardment. At that moment, rules of engagement authorize intervention. Until then, we observe only. I know this is difficult. Watching our people face 227 warships without revealing ourselves goes against every instinct. But discipline wins wars. Patience saves lives. Hold your posts. Trust the plan. Crew responded with focused silence. No cheers, no battle cries, just professional acknowledgement. These were not children playing at war. These were veterans understanding the weight of what came. Korvac settled into his chair, closed eyes briefly, thought about his sister, her laugh, her brilliant mind, how she explained quantum mechanics like poetry, how she died because someone made an error. He opened his eyes, personal grief locked away, compartmentalized. He was not Thaddeus Korvax whose sister died. He was Captain Korvax commanding the most powerful warship in known space. The distinction mattered. All stations report, he said calmly. Weapons ready. All systems green. Cloaking field maximum efficiency. No emissions detected. Power core at 87%, ready to surge on command. Shield standing by, can raise to full in 0.3 seconds. Navigation locked, can move to engagement range in 42 seconds. Korvax nodded. Professional satisfaction. Now came the hardest part. Waiting. Planet New Cascadia hung in space like a blue jewel. Oceans covering 60% of surface. Green continents traced with rivers. White clouds swirling. 12 million humans called it home. Cities and valleys. Farms on plains. Lives that mattered. Captain Octavia Reeves stood on the bridge of UOS defiant. 42 years old. Thin scar crossed her left eyebrow. Gift of shrapnel from pirate raid 5 years ago. Short dark hair touched with premature gray. Eyes that had seen too much combat and still held focus. Her flagship was one of 7 frigates. Small ships. Fast. Well-armed for their size. But still, just frigates. Designed for patrol, not for standing against battle fleets. Bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency. Young officers, veterans of border conflicts, people who chose to stand between their homes and whatever came from the dark. Lieutenant Maya Torres sat at communications, 29 years old, brilliant with signals intelligence. She intercepted Valeri fleet transmissions 3 days ago, gave them warning, time to prepare. Captain, Torres said, receiving transmission from planet surface. Dr. Maria Reeves requesting private channel. Octavia's expression softened slightly. Only slightly, enough that crew noticed. Put her through, my ready room. Octavia stepped into small office adjacent to bridge. Screen activated. Maria's face filled it. Dark hair pulled back. Exhaustion visible. Medical scrubs. Blood on one sleeve. Working triage 16 hours. Tavi, Maria said. Private nickname. Only she was allowed. Mari. They looked at each other across distance. Octavia in orbit aboard Warship preparing for battle, she couldn't win. Maria on surface coordinating evacuations at Port Haven's largest hospital. 73% evacuated, Maria reported. Professional, clinical. The masks they wore when duty called. Underground shelters at capacity, emergency supplies distributed, medical teams briefed on mass casualty protocols. Good, that's good. Tavi, I need you to promise me something. Anything. If it comes down to it, if they start firing on the planet, don't die trying to stop them. Fall back, survive. Octavia was quiet for a long moment. I can't promise that. I know. Maria's voice cracked slightly, just slightly. I know you can't, but I had to ask. We've got support coming. I can't tell you details. Classified. But we're not alone. We just need to hold the line until help arrives. Do you trust this help? With my life. With all our lives. Maria nodded slowly. Then I trust them too, because I trust you. They looked at each other. Years of partnership, years of love, years understanding that duty sometimes meant sacrifice. I love you, Maria said. I love you too. See you after. After. Screen went dark. Octavia allowed herself 10 seconds. 10 seconds to feel fear, love, weight of responsibility. Then locked it away. Became Captain Reeves again. Walked back onto bridge. Lieutenant Torres, shipwide channel. Channel open, Captain. Octavia's voice carried through all 7 frigates. This is Captain Reeves. In 14 hours, Valeria arrived with 227 warships. They demand we surrender our homes, threaten our families, expect us to run. She paused. We're not running. We're not here because we think we can win. We're here because our homes are worth defending, our families worth protecting. Sometimes standing your ground matters more than surviving the day. Another pause. But I won't lie. Won't promise easy victory. The odds are terrible. 227 against 7. But we're not alone. I've been informed support is positioned. Support that will intervene if Valeria attempt orbital bombardment. Our job is simple. Hold the line. Trust that help comes when needed. She drew breath. All ships. Form defensive line. Position between planet and system edge. Update your families. Say what needs saying. Then man your stations. Channel closed. 7 frigates moved into position. Perfect formation. Precise spacing. UAS Defiant at center. 3 ships port. 3 starboard. A line of light between New Cascadia and the dark where Valeria would arrive. Torres turned from her station. Captain, receiving message from you, ES Revenant. Text only. Quote, we see you. We honor your courage. When the moment comes, we will be there. End quote. Octavia nodded slowly. She had never seen Revenant. Guardian ships were classified beyond her clearance, but she knew they existed. Knew they were humanity's secret. Acknowledged. All hands to battle stations. Condition 1 throughout the ship. This is not a drill. Alarm sounded. Red lights flashed. Crew moved to posts. Weapons powered up. Shields online. Targeting computers locked onto preset coordinates. Minutes turned to hours. Hours crawled toward the moment Valeria would arrive. Octavia sat in her command chair. Thought about Maria. About their house in Port Haven. The garden Maria tended with such care. Growing tomatoes that never ripened properly in Cascadia's weak sunlight. Quiet mornings. Coffee on the porch. Plans for the future. She thought about it all. Memorized it, in case she never saw it again. Then locked it away. Became the captain. The professional. The soldier. Time to contact. 6 hours, Captain. Maintain stations. Rotate shifts every 2 hours. I want everyone fresh. Aye, Captain. The wait continued. Valeria fleet decelerated into Cascadia system with perfect precision. 227 warships dropping from faster than light in coordinated formation. Display of power. Demonstration of capability. Message that said we are inevitable. Fleet Commander Krennic stood on Divine Mandate Bridge. Tactical display showed everything. 7 human frigates in defensive formation. Planet behind them. Civilian traffic fleeing toward outer system. 4 arms moved across control surfaces. Checking, verifying, ensuring readiness. Junior Officer Velcara monitored sensor feeds. Expression troubled. Something in data bothered him. Something he couldn't identify. Fleet Commander. Unusual gravitational patterns in system. Nothing on visual, nothing on thermal, but mass calculations don't match visible objects. Krennic glanced at data, frowned. Debris, asteroids, dark matter. Space is full of mass we can't always see. Yes, sir, but this feels deliberate, like something large maintaining position relative to our formation. There is nothing there, Officer Velcara. Focus on confirmed contacts. Yes, sir. But Velcara kept monitoring, kept watching, instincts saying something was wrong. Krennic's opened fleet-wide channel. All ships, standard engagement formation, carriers deploy fighter screen, heavy cruisers forward, destroyers on flanks. I want overwhelming visual presence. Fleet repositioned, moving with practiced efficiency. Formation designed to intimidate as much as fight. Krennic's opened direct channel to human flagship. Human vessel Defiant. This is Fleet Commander Krennic of Valeri Dominion. You are in violation of Galactic Council Resolution 743. Power down weapons. Stand down shields. Prepare to be boarded for protective relocation. Response came quickly. Woman's voice. Calm, professional, utterly unafraid. Valeri Fleet. This is Captain Octavia Reeves, United Earth Ship Defiant. New Cascadia is sovereign human territory under Terran Colonial Charter. We recognize no council resolution violating that sovereignty. Reverse course immediately. Krennic almost laughed. Captain Reeves, your courage is noted. Your tactical situation is hopeless. 7 frigates against 227 capital ships. This is not negotiation. This is reality. Surrender your vessels. No one needs to die today. You're correct, no one needs to die, Reeves replied. But if you approach this planet with hostile intent, people will die. I suggest very strongly you reconsider. Now Krennic did laugh, short bark of genuine amusement. Captain, I respect your bravery, not your judgment. You have 10 minutes to comply. After that, we disable your vessels by force. Krennic's out. Channel closed. Velcara turned from station. Fleet Commander, that gravitational anomaly. It's moved, now positioned between our formation and human frigates. Show me. Velcara displayed sensor data, mass readings indicating something enormous. But visual showed only empty space. Thermal showed nothing. Electromagnetic showed nothing. Your sensors are malfunctioning, Krennic said, voice carrying less certainty now. Sir, should we investigate? Krennic considered. 10 minutes until engagement. Sensor ghost that probably meant nothing. Probably was not certainty. No, we proceed. If debris is in our path, we'll destroy it when we advance. Maintain countdown. Minutes crawl past. 8, 6, 4, and UES defiant. Captain Reeves watched timer countdown. Crew at stations, ready, afraid, holding posts. At 3 minutes remaining, Krennic made his decision. Forward elements, 12 destroyers. Advance and disable lead human frigate. Non-lethal targeting. Disable only. 12 Valari destroyers broke formation. Advance toward UES defiant. Weapons charging. Targeting systems locked. 400 kilometers away, invisible against stars. Captain Korvax watched it happen. Hands rested on armrests. Not gripping. Not yet. Captain Across said, voice tight. Valari destroyers advancing. Weapons hot. Targeting defiant. Military target, Korvax said, voice flat. Not planetary bombardment. Not within rules of engagement. Sir, they're going to kill her crew. We have our orders. Cross turned to look at him, saw jaw clenched, saw knuckles white against black armrests, saw cost of discipline written in lines around his eyes. Voss stepped closer, spoke quietly. David, first name personal. We hold, Korvax said, voice like iron. Valari destroyers close to firing range. Weapon systems primed. Target locks confirmed. Fingers on triggers. On defiant, Captain Reeves gave her final order. All ships, hold the line. Make them earn it. 12 Valari destroyers opened fire. Then something impossible happened. Space between Valari destroyers and human frigates was empty. Sensors showed nothing. Visuals showed nothing. Just black dark scattered with distant stars. Then reality rippled. Valari weapons, plasma beams bright as miniature suns, missiles trailing fire, kinetic rounds, moving at fractions of light speed, simply stopped. Frozen in space, hanging motionless like insects in amber. Time itself seemed to pause around them. On divine mandate, every alarm screamed at once. Sensor boards exploded with data making no sense. Mass readings violating physics. Energy signatures that shouldn't exist. Gravity distortions bending light itself. Velcara's voice cracked with shock. Something's there. Something massive. Fleet Commander, something is there. A shape appeared, not gradually, not fading into view, just suddenly present, as if it had always been there, and reality was only now remembering to show it. 2 kilometers of angular death hung in space between Valari destroyers and their targets. Hull plating so black it seemed to drink starlight, edges sharp enough to cut perception itself. No running lights, no markings, no concession to being seen. UES Revenant had decloaked. Fleet Commander Krennic stood frozen, 4 arms gripping console, staring at something his mind struggled to process. What? He whispered. What is that? 12 Valari destroyers hung in space, weapons still locked on human frigates, crews still at battle stations. But now something else was in the way, something that swallowed their attacks like a man swallowing water. Captain Korvax stood on Revenant's bridge, face calm, voice steady. Weapons, singularity pulse, targeted containment, 12 sources, execute. Singularity pulse armed, targeting locked, firing. No visible beam, no missile launch, no kinetic round, just space folding in on itself. Around each of 12 Valari destroyers, gravity suddenly inverted, matter compressed, hulls crumpled like paper in fist, metal shrieked, armor collapsed. Crews screamed for 3 seconds before vacuum and death found them. 3 seconds exactly. Krennic counted them. 1, 2, 3. 12 destroyers became 12 points of absolute darkness, singularities consuming themselves. Then even those vanished, collapsing into nothing, taking 3,840 Valari crew with them. No debris, no wreckage, no bodies. Just empty space where 12 warships had been. Total silence on divine mandate. Every crew member staring at displays confirming the impossible. 12 ships, gone. 3 seconds. No survivors. Krennic's voice when it came was hollow. What are we facing? Velkera worked console with shaking hands. Fleet commander. That ship. It's not in our databases. Mass readings are impossible. 2 kilometers long, but massing like something 10 times that size. Hull composition unknown. Energy signature beyond measurement capacity. It's like nothing we've ever encountered. Krennic felt something he had not felt in 350 years. Not since he was junior officer in first real battle. Something cold and primal. Fear. His training took over. Decades of military discipline, centuries of command experience. All ships, full combat alert, target that vessel. Every weapon, concentrated fire, destroy it, now. 215 Valari warships turned their weapons on Revenant. Every plasma cannon, every missile battery, every kinetic gun. Enough firepower to crack a planet's mantle and boil its oceans. They fired. Galaxy watched. Council emergency session activated. Every species monitoring conflict. Every sensor platform in range recording. Thousands of weapons converged on Black Ship. Visual display was almost beautiful. Beams of coherent plasma bright as stars. Missiles streaming fire. Kinetic rounds invisible except for passage through cosmic dust. All focused on one target. Revenant disappeared. Every Valari weapon hit empty space. Explosions bloomed where ship had been. Detonations visible from light years away. Energy release equivalent to stellar events. Nothing. Ship was simply gone. On divine mandate, Krennic stared at displays. Where did it go? Where did it go? Fleet commander, Velkera's voice carried despair. Behind us. Krennic spun. Tactical display rotated. There. 3 seconds had passed. Revenant now hung in space at rear of Valari formation. 2 kilometers of impossible technology, completely untouched. Voice came through on all frequencies. All channels, every Valari ship simultaneously. Calm, professional, absolutely certain. This is Captain Thaddeus Korvax, United Earthship Revenant. You fired on human vessels, threatened human civilians. Under Terran Articles of Defense, this constitutes an act of war. We accept your declaration. Krennic found his voice. One ship. You think one ship changes anything? We have 215 warships remaining. You cannot. Revenant fired, beam of pure darkness, coherent gravity. Physics weaponized beyond anything Galaxy had seen. It crossed void faster than light itself. Struck Valari heavy cruiser on fleet's port flank. Ship didn't explode. It came apart. Sliced perfectly in half, lengthwise. Both halves drifting away from each other. Atmosphere venting, crew tumbling into vacuum. Power cores going critical. One shot, one ship, dead in an instant. You were saying, Korvax's voice came through again. Something about numbers. Krennic stared at halves of destroyed cruiser. Watched crew members dying in frozen dark. Watched ship that served Dominion 2 centuries become scrap metal in heartbeats. He had been a soldier 350 years. He knew when he was beaten. But pride and orders warred with survival instinct. Dominion did not retreat, did not surrender. 350 years of that programming. 3 centuries of never backing down. He made his choice. All ships, weapons free, pattern sigma dispersal, attack from all vectors. It cannot target us all simultaneously. 214 Valari warships scattered, moving to surround Revenant, creating sphere of hostility, every angle covered, every approach threatened. They opened fire again. Revenant moved, not slowly, not with visible acceleration, just instantaneous repositioning. There one moment, 300 kilometers away the next, moving through space like it wasn't even there. Secondary batteries opened up. Point defense engaged. 6 Valari missiles incoming. 6 perfect intercepts. Explosions like new stars birthing. Revenant appeared behind a destroyer. Main weapon fired. Destroyer vanished. Not destroyed. Erased. Matter converted to energy. Energy dispersed across electromagnetic spectrum. Gone again. Reappearing at fleet's starboard flank. Beam weapons slicing through cruiser's engines. Ship dead in space. Crew alive but helpless. Again. Port ventral. 2 destroyers in formation. Singularity pulse. Both ships crumpling simultaneously. Gone in 3 seconds. Volari fleet was coming apart. Not from destruction alone. From terror. From fundamental understanding they were fighting something beyond comprehension. Something that broke every rule they knew about warfare. Ships fled. Captains abandoned formation. Discipline cracking under impossible pressure. Volari fleet fired everything. Every weapon. Every ship. Storm of destruction that would have shattered moons. Turned asteroids to dust. Erased cities from planetary surfaces. Revenant hung in space at center of it all. Unmoving. Patient. Captain Korvax watched tactical display. Thousands of weapons converging. Plasma beams. Missiles. Kinetic rounds. Energy sufficient to vaporize small fleet. Shields holding, Commander Cross reported. Voice steady despite what she was seeing. Incoming fire mass calculated at 0.003% of defensive capacity. Acknowledged. Korvax's tone was conversational. Weapons, activate reversal field. Reversal field active, 5-kilometer radius. Space around Revenant changed, not visibly. Not in any way human eyes could perceive. But instruments screamed. Reality bent. Physics rewrote itself in sphere 5 kilometers across. Every incoming weapon crossed boundary. Plasma beams, missiles trailing fire, kinetic rounds moving at relativistic speeds, all entered sphere. All stopped, frozen, suspended, held in place by forces that made gravity look weak. Thousands of weapons hung motionless in 3-dimensional space. Constellation of death, waiting. On divine mandate, Krennic stared at display. 4 arms gripping console, every muscle rigid. What is happening? He whispered. Velkara worked sensor station frantically, trying to understand, trying to make numbers make sense. Fleet commander. Space around that ship. It's not normal space anymore. It's something else. Something catching our weapons like insects in amber. Sphere around Revenant pulsed once. Ripple through reality itself. Every weapon reversed direction. Not slowly. Instantaneously. One moment frozen and aimed at Revenant. Next moment moving back toward Volari fleet. Accelerating, building speed, building power. Energy of each weapon amplified, multiplied. Revenant systems feeding power into reversal. Taking what Volari threw and making it 10 times worse. Plasma beams that had been bright became miniature suns. Missiles that carried conventional warships now burned with fusion fire. Kinetic rounds that moved fast now moved faster than physics should allow. All returning to fleet that fired it. First wave hit Volari formation. 17 ships died in first 3 seconds. Hulls pierced by their own weapons. Shields overwhelmed by amplified energy. Reactors overloading from impacts never designed to withstand. Krennic watched his fleet die. Watched ships he commanded for decades torn apart. Watched crews he knew by name vaporized or frozen or crushed, depending on which weapon killed them. All ships, his voice cracked. Breaking. Cease fire, cease fire. But it was too late. Weapons already fired continued deadly return. Wave after wave, each amplified, each unstoppable. 47 seconds. In 47 seconds of continuous devastation, 127 Volari warships died. Some exploded. Some imploded. Some simply came apart. Structural integrity failing under impossible stress. Crews died by thousands. Engineers, gunners, officers, medical staff, everyone. No discrimination, no mercy, just physics and consequence. Silence when it ended was absolute. 88 Volari ships remained, drifting, dead in space or fleeing on emergency power. Every captain making same calculation, same desperate mathematics of survival. Fight and die, or run and live. They ran, engines flared, ships scattered, formation dissolving into chaos. Every vessel for itself, iron discipline of Volari dominion cracking like glass. Krennic stood on his bridge, watched his fleet break, watched 3 centuries of military tradition shatter in minutes, watched everything he built turn to ash. Communications officer's voice was small, frightened. Fleet commander. Orders, Krennic looked at tactical display, at Revenant hanging there, untouched, unharmed, predator that had barely exerted itself. that destroyed 139 ships, 12 in initial attack, 127 in reversal, without taking single hit in return. He thought about orders from council, about vote, about Malthor's arrogant certainty humans were primitive and weak, about how wrong they all were. Order fleet to retreat, he said quietly. Maximum speed, jump to hyperspace as soon as they clear gravity well. Sir, what about divine mandate? Krennic looked down at console, at engine status display showing red across every system. Revenant had disabled his flagship remotely, some kind of directed electromagnetic pulse that fried every critical circuit. Ship wasn't destroyed, just dead. Corpse drifting through void. Divine mandate will remain, he said. Evacuate non-essential personnel to escort destroyers. Senior staff stays with me. Fleet commander. That's an order. Evacuation proceeded. Crew members fleeing to few ships still capable of flight, racing against time, against fear that human ship would change its mind and kill them all. But Revenant just hung there, watching, waiting. Captain Korvax's open channel, voice carried to every remaining Valari ship, every sensor platform in range, every council monitoring station across galaxy. Valari fleet, this is Captain Korvax. You are permitted to leave. Take your wounded. Take your survivors. Return to your territory and deliver message to your government. Human space is under Guardian protection. Any further aggression will be met with absolute force. This is your only warning. He paused, let words settle. You came here with 227 warships. You challenged 7 frigates defending their homes. You learned the cost of that choice. Remember what you've seen. Remember what happened when you mistook patience for weakness. Remember we gave you every chance to turn back. Another pause. Now go, while you still can. Valari ships fled, 87 vessels limping towards system edge, leaving debris fields behind, leaving thousands of dead, leaving their flagship and commander adrift. Admiral Voss stood beside Korvax, watched retreat on tactical display. They'll be back, Voss said quietly. No. Korvax shook his head. Not for a long time, maybe never. We just broke something in them that won't heal quickly. 350 years believing they were untouchable. Gone in an hour. Is that what we wanted to break them? Korvax turned to look at him, gray eyes steady. We wanted them to understand. To truly comprehend humanity is not prey. Not anymore. Breaking their pride was necessary for that understanding. Voss nodded slowly. Not agreement, just acknowledgement. What now? Now we board divine mandate, deliver terms, make sure this never happens again. Divine mandate drifted powerless. 2 kilometers of dead metal and darkened corridors. Life support running on emergency batteries. Gravity generators offline. Crew that remained floated in 0G. Waiting. Krennic had dismissed everyone except senior staff. 10 officers, veterans all, people who deserved to see this through, to face what came next with dignity. They gathered on bridge, gripping handholds, watching viewports. Revenant approached slowly, not with weapons hot, not threatening, just steady and inevitable. Shuttle detached from human ship. Small craft, barely visible against stars. It crossed void between vessels. Matched velocity with drifting Valari flagship. Docked with main airlock. Krennic's second-in-command looked at him. Fleet commander, we could resist. Seal bulkheads. Make them fight for every corridor. Ooh, Krennic shook his head. No, we lost. Honorably, we don't add feudal resistance to list of mistakes today. When they board, we receive them as military officers receiving victors. With dignity. Yes, sir. Minutes passed. Krennic's imagined boarding party moving through his ship, through corridors he walked for decades, past compartments where crew lived and worked and built lives in service to Dominion. All ending now. Bridge doors opened. 4 human soldiers entered first. Armor that looked like shadow given form. Black and angular. Moving with professional precision. Weapons ready but not aimed. Trained, competent, alert. They swept bridge, confirmed no threats, took positions by door. Then came officers. Captain Korvax entered. 38 years old, black hair touched with gray at temples, scar on cheekbone visible in emergency lighting. Simple uniform, no medals, just single silver bar on collar. Admiral Voss followed. 58 years old, gray hair, deep-set eyes that had seen too much. Scar on temple reminder of old battles. Moving with careful deliberation of age and experience. Both men stopped, stood at military attention, faced Krennic across bridge. For long moment, no one spoke. Just two groups of soldiers, winners and losers, enemies who shared fundamental understanding of service and duty. Korvax broke silence. Fleet Commander Krenix, I am Captain Thaddeus Korvax, United Earthship Revenant. This is Admiral Nathaniel Voss. We request permission to board. Formal words, as if permission mattered when his ship was dead and fleet scattered. But Krenix appreciated gesture, acknowledgement of protocol. Permission granted, Captain. Welcome aboard Divine Mandate, though I'm afraid our hospitality is somewhat limited at present. Ghost of humor, dark, but present. Korvax nodded. We won't keep you long. We have terms to deliver. He produced datapad, held it out. Krenix pushed off from handhold. Floated across bridge in zero gravity. Took pad. Their hands briefly touched. Human and Valeri, enemies an hour ago, now just soldiers doing jobs. Krenix activated pad. Raid terms displayed, 4 eyes moving down screen. Taking it all in. Immediate withdrawal from all human territories, he read aloud. Reparations for the attack. Formal Galactic Council recognition of human sovereignty and military capability. He looked up. And if we refuse, Voss spoke for first time. Voice carried weight, an authority of age and experience. You won't refuse, Fleet Commander. You're a soldier, not a politician. You know when you're beaten. You know when cost of continued fighting outweighs any possible gain. Krenix was quiet, studying two humans, younger one calm and professional, older one showing weight of command in every line of face. 350 years, Krenix said slowly. I have served Valeri Dominion 350 years, conquered 19 worlds, won 42 major engagements, built reputation on victory. He gestured at viewports, at debris fields visible in distance, at wreckage of his fleet. 1 hour, one ship, all of it gone. Korvax's expression softened slightly. Understanding in gray eyes. I'm sorry it came to this. We didn't want war. We wanted to be left alone, to build our colonies, raise our families, exist without galaxy treating us like insects to be crushed when convenient. You have strange way of wanting to be left alone, Krenix observed. Building ships like Revenant. We built them in response to exactly this, Voss said. 50 years of being dismissed, attacked, our people killed with impunity, compensation paid in credits as if that could replace lives. We decided that had to stop. Krenix looked at datapad again, at terms laid out in precise language. These terms are reasonable. Given your capabilities, you could demand much more. We could, Korvax agreed. We could demand your surrender. Dissolution of Valeri Dominion. Occupation of your homeworld. We have power to enforce it. He paused. We choose not to, because that's not who we are. We're not conquerors, we're protectors. Krenix floated there, holding datapad, thinking about his crew, about survivors fleeing toward Valeri space, about political storm that would hit when news of defeat reached home, about Malthor's arrogance, about Council's certainty humans were primitive and weak, about how wrong they all were. I will deliver these terms, he said finally. I will report what happened here. I will recommend acceptance. That's all we ask, Korvax said. Krenix looked at him, really looked, saw weariness behind professional calm, saw weight of command, saw fellow soldier who understood cost of what they'd just done. Captain Korvax, may I ask you something? Yes. If circumstances were different, if we had not come here with hostile intent, if our species had met as equals, do you think we could have been allies? Korvax considered question, took it seriously. Yes, he said finally. I think we could have. You're a professional, a soldier. You follow orders. Under different orders, we might have stood on same side. But not today. Not today. Krenix nodded slowly, understanding. Then I hope someday circumstances do change, that our species can meet again without weapons drawn. So do I, Fleet Commander, so do I. Voss stepped forward, extended hand, human gesture. Krenix had studied human customs, knew what it meant. He reached out with one of 4 arms. They shook, brief, formal, acknowledgement between professionals. We'll restore your ship's main power before we leave, Voss said. Life support, communications, enough to get you home safely. Rest is up to your engineers. That's generous. We destroyed your fleet, killed thousands of your people. We don't need to add cruelty to that list. Korvax moved toward door, soldiers falling in behind. At threshold, he paused, looked back. Fleet Commander, one more thing. When you report to your government, when you tell them what happened here, make sure they understand. We gave you every chance to turn back. We sent warnings, we showed restraint. You chose to proceed. Consequences were inevitable. I will make that clear, Captain. Good, because next species that tests us might not get same consideration. We've proven what we can do. We won't need to prove it again. Humans left. Bridge doors closed behind them. Krennics floated alone with senior staff, holding datapad, thinking about everything that changed in one terrible hour. 20 minutes later, Divine Mandate systems came back online. Power flowing, lights returning, gravity generators engaging, crew settling back to deck with grateful relief. On main viewer, Revenant turned away, began moving back toward human frigates. Still protecting, still ready. Still undefeated, Galactic Council chamber had been built to impress, to intimidate, to remind every species of their place in ancient hierarchy. Today it served different purpose. Emergency session, every representative present, every platform active. Chamber filled with shocked silence. Main display showed footage from Cascadia battle, recorded by automated sensor platforms, by Valari tactical systems, by dozen different sources, all showing same impossible thing. 12 Valari destroyers imploding in 3 seconds. 127 ships destroyed by their own reversed weapons. 2-kilometer vessel moving through space like physics was optional. Ancient Counselor Theron presided. 890 years old. Oldest living being in chamber. Skeletal frame on skin like old parchment. Eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. He sat in central elevated position usually reserved for speaker. But this was no ordinary session. This required wisdom of age. Council will come to order. Voice was thin, reedy with age, but carried authority, centuries of it. Murmuring stopped. 12 species, 47 representatives, all focused on center. We have reviewed footage, Theron continued, verified authenticity, confirmed casualty reports. 139 Valari warships destroyed, approximately 42,000 crew members killed, all in span of 1 hour, by single human vessel. He paused. Let that sink in. Question before this council is simple. What are we dealing with, and how do we respond? Krell representative spoke first. Gravel-voiced, uncertain. Counselor Theron, our analysis suggests weapon systems observed are beyond any known technology. Ability to create localized singularities, to reverse incoming fire with amplified force, to move through space without visible propulsion. This should not be possible. And yet it is, Theron observed. And yet it is. Molothon delegates' tentacles writhed in patterns of distress. We must consider this existential threat. Humanity demonstrated capabilities that render conventional military force obsolete. If they choose aggression, no species is safe. They chose defense, they encountered, not offense. Valari attacked human territory. Humans responded. Proportionally, one might argue. Proportionally, Molothon's voice rose. They destroyed 139 ships against 227 that came to conquer their colonies. Mathematics suggest restraint. They could have destroyed entire fleet. They chose not to. Silence greeted that observation. Chamber doors opened. Ambassador Alara Ashford entered. 40 years old, former intelligence officer. Sharp features, short dark hair, simple gray diplomatic dress. But today something was different. Her platform didn't remain at lowest position. It rose, elevated by remote command, moving up through tiers of hierarchy, until it stopped at center. Level with Theron himself, equal status, message was clear. Humanity was no longer weakest voice in chamber. Ashford stood on platform, looked around at assembled species, met their eyes, one by one, reading fear, uncertainty, respect where before there had been only contempt. She spoke calmly, professionally. Honorable counselors, I stand before you today under very different circumstances than my last appearance. 48 hours ago, you voted to authorize seizure of human colonial territories. You laughed at our supposed military inadequacy. You dismissed our concerns. She gestured at display, at frozen image of Revenant surrounded by reversed weapons. I trust those concerns seem more relevant now. Theron leaned forward slightly. Ambassador Ashford, Council demands explanation. What is that ship? Where did it come from? What other capabilities does humanity possess? Ashford took breath. This was moment. Revelation they'd kept secret 47 years. But she would not tell them everything. Not yet. Honorable counselors, what you witnessed was UES Revenant, Guardian-class defensive platform. Humanity did not build it. Murmurs rippled through chamber. Confusion, disbelief. We found it. Murmurs stopped. Every species focused on her words. 47 years ago, human deep space exploration vessels entered region designated Dead Star Sector. Ancient space. Thought empty. Lifeless. We found something there. Something left behind by species that died 4.7 million years ago. She activated holographic display. Star charts appeared, showing vast reaches of space. Coordinates, location markers. Species called themselves architects. They were dominant civilization in this galaxy during tertiary epoch. They achieved technological advancement beyond anything we understand today. Displays shifted, showing images, partial reconstructions, alien architecture on scale that dwarfed planets. And then they faced something that threatened everything. An entity, a force. Details are complex, classified. What matters is this: they built weapons to fight that threat. Guardian-class vessels designed to manipulate reality itself. Displays showed schematics, partial diagrams, enough to suggest impossible complexity. Each Guardian was capable of rewriting local physics, creating singularities, reversing energy flows, moving through space by folding it. And humanity found these weapons, Krell representative said slowly. How many? Ashford met his eyes. Enough, deployed at strategic positions across human space, ready to defend our territories and interests. She didn't say 12, let them wonder. Let uncertainty work in humanity's favor. Panic would have been understandable. Several representatives looked ready to flee, but Theron raised hand. Silence fell. Ambassador, if architects possessed such weapons, what destroyed them? This was crucial part, but Ashford would not reveal full story here. Not in chamber full of politicians and fear. Architects made choice, she said carefully. They chose sacrifice over using their weapons. Chose to save galaxy rather than rule it. Details will be shared with those who seek true understanding, not with those seeking tactical advantage. She looked around chamber. That is who we are, honorable counselors. We inherited power beyond measure. We could rule this galaxy if we chose. We choose not to. We choose path of restraint, of using strength only when necessary, of protecting rather than conquering. She gestured at display showing Revenant. This is price of continued aggression against humanity. This is what awaits any species that mistakes our patience for weakness. But it is also promise. Work with us as equals. Respect our sovereignty. And these ships will protect all of us. Chamber erupted. Representatives shouting, arguing, demanding, fear and hope and calculation all mixing together. Theron let it continue 30 seconds, then raised hand again. Silence. Council will consider these revelations. We will debate appropriate response. But one thing is clear. Galaxy has changed. Humanity has emerged not as supplicants, but as equals, perhaps superiors in military capability. How we respond to this new reality will define next era of galactic civilization. He looked at Ashford. Ambassador, on behalf of Council, I acknowledge humanity's sovereignty. I acknowledge your right to defend your territories. And I acknowledge that time of dismissing human concerns is over. Ashford bowed slightly, respectful, but from a position of strength now. Thank you, Counselor Theron. Humanity seeks only peaceful coexistence. We hope Galaxy chooses to grant it. Session continued, but outcome was inevitable. Fear would drive some species to hostility. Wisdom would drive others to alliance. But none would ever again make mistake of thinking humanity was weak. Galaxy had learned. At cost of 139 ships and 42,000 lives, humanity was not prey. Not anymore. Revenant returned to Cascadia orbit. Captain Korvac stood on bridge watching planet below. Blue oceans, green continents. 12 million humans safe because of what they'd done. 320 lives had been lost. UES Horizon destroyed an initial Valeri warning shot. Before Korvax could intervene, he thought about those 320, about their families, about funerals he would attend, about price of restraint. Commander Cross approached. Captain Reeves requests communication. Put her through. Octavia Reeves appeared on screen, exhaustion visible in her eyes, but alive, unharmed. Captain Korvax, On behalf of Cascadia Defense Fleet and 12 million colonists, I thank you. You saved us. You saved yourselves, Captain Reeves. You held the line. We simply made sure your stand mattered. 320 didn't make it. Horizon's crew. Korvax was quiet for a moment. I know. I carry them. On all of them. Every life lost because we had to wait. Had to follow protocols. Had to be certain before revealing ourselves. You did what was necessary. Doesn't make it easier. Reeves nodded slowly, understanding. Dr. Maria Reeves sends her regards. She's back at Port Haven Hospital, already treating wounded from evacuation injuries. She asked me to tell you thank you for bringing me home. Korvax felt something tighten in his chest. He thought about his sister, about empty coffin, about 3 years of grief. Tell Dr. Reeves she's welcome. Tell her to hold on to what she has. Every moment matters. I will, sir. Screen went dark. Voss stepped beside him. You did well, David. Saved millions. Changed galaxy. At what cost? Nate? 320 dead. 42,000 Valari dead. All because politicians couldn't share sandbox. War always has cost. Question is whether cost purchased something worthwhile. Today it did. Galaxy will never look at humanity same way. Never dismiss us. Never assume we're weak. And tomorrow, when next crisis comes, when next species tests us, then we respond, as we did today, with strength tempered by wisdom, with power guided by restraint. Korvax looked at planet below, at cities glowing in night, at lives continuing because of decisions made in darkness. I hope you're right. So do I. Galactic Council reconvened 3 days after Ashford's revelation. 3 days for species to process impossible, to calculate, to choose paths forward. Ancient Counselor Theron called session to order. 890 years of experience told him this moment would define next century, perhaps longer. Chamber was different now. Ashford's platform remained at center level, equal to founding species. Human delegation had grown. 3 additional representatives flanked her. Military advisors, technical specialists. Signs humanity was no longer sending lone voice to be dismissed. Theron's thin voice carried through chamber. Council faces choice. Prepare for conflict with humanity, or seek peaceful coexistence. There is no middle path. We either accept them as equals, or face consequences of treating them as threats. He gestured at display. Footage from Cascadia still haunting every representative. I call for debate. Let every species speak. Molothon delegate rose first, tentacles writhing in agitation patterns. Counselor Theron, how can we trust species that hid such weapons 47 years, that let us believe them weak while possessing power to destroy us? This is deception. Ashford responded calmly. We hid our strength because revealing it would have provoked exactly the conflict we sought to avoid. Species would have struck preemptively, attempted to seize Guardian technology. We chose secrecy to preserve peace. You chose secrecy to gain advantage. We chose secrecy to survive. 50 years of attacks, raids, territorial seizures. Would you have acted differently? Silence answered. Krell representative spoke, gravel voice thoughtful. Question is not what humanity did, but what they will do. What prevents them from using that power to conquer? Junior Officer Velcara stood, not council member, no official standing, but he'd been at Cascadia, witnessed battle, survivors carried authority politicians lacked. May I speak, Counselor Theron? Theron studied young Valari, saw something in his eyes, clarity that came from facing death. Proceed, Officer Velcara. I commanded sensor station aboard Divine Mandate. I watched battle. I saw what Revenant could do. And I saw what it chose not to do. He pulled up tactical data, battle footage from his own recordings. At 14 separate moments during engagement, human ship had clear shots at our flagship. At Fleet Commander Krenix. At concentrations of remaining vessels. Perfect opportunities to maximize casualties. Footage played, each moment highlighted, each missed opportunity shown in stark detail. They took none of those shots. They disabled ships when they could have destroyed them, allowed evacuation when they could have prevented it, let 88 vessels escape when they could have annihilated all. He looked around chamber. That is not behavior of conquerors. That is behavior of defenders. Species who hold power but choose restraint. I was there, I saw it, and I believe them. Chamber murmured. Velcara's testimony carried weight. He had nothing to gain from defending humanity, every reason to seek revenge. Theron nodded slowly. Your words are noted at Officer Velkara. Three more representatives rose. Arguments presented: fear versus pragmatism, old prejudices versus new realities. Debate stretched hours. Finally, Theron called for vote. Question before council: do we seek peaceful coexistence with humanity or prepare for conflict? Those in favor of peace. 7 platforms glowed blue. Affirmative votes. Species choosing wisdom over pride. Those opposed. No platforms illuminated. 0 votes for war. Abstentions. 5 platforms glowed amber. Species choosing neither path. Waiting to see which way wine blew. Motion passes. 7 in favor. 5 abstaining. None opposed. Council formally recognizes humanity as sovereign power with full rights and protections. He paused. Let wait settle. I will personally lead delegation to Sol System to formalize this recognition, to establish terms of peaceful coexistence. Theron looked at Ashford. Ambassador. Will humanity receive us? Ashford stood, bowed slightly. Respect between professionals. Humanity will welcome you, Counselor Theron. We seek what we have always sought: peace, partnership, future where our children can look at stars with hope instead of fear. Session adjourned. Galaxy had chosen its path. Diplomatic vessel departed 5 days later. Small ship by galactic standards. Crew of 40, minimal armament, flying under flags of truce. Counselor Theron led delegation. 890 years old, making perhaps final journey. Last great act of statesmanship. Officer Velkara accompanied him, promoted to ambassador in training. Survival and testimony marked him as someone who understood new reality. Someone who could build bridges instead of walls. Journey would take 4 days. 4 days through void. 4 days for Velkara to study humanity. He sat in ship's archive surrounded by data streams, historical records transmitted by Earth ahead of arrival, cultural information, philosophy, art, science. Human history was violent. Thousands of years of warfare, conquest, genocide. They'd nearly destroyed themselves multiple times. And yet, they'd also produced extraordinary beauty. Music that stirred something deep. Art transcending species barriers. Philosophy grappling with fundamental questions. He found recordings of human debates about guardians. 23 years of argument. Every perspective represented. Conquest, destruction, restraint. Restraint of faction won by narrow margin. 52% in final referendum. Theron entered archive. Moving slowly. 890 years showing in every step. You look troubled, young Velkara. Counselor, I'm trying to understand them. Such violence in their past. How can we trust them with power like guardians? Theron settled into seat, joints creaking. You ask wrong question. Question is not whether they have capacity for violence. All species do. Question is whether they've learned from it. He gestured at data streams. I see species that makes mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But learns from them. Creates weapons, then chooses not to use them. Faces existential threats and chooses cooperation over conquest. But they're so young, barely 2 centuries in space. Perhaps wisdom isn't about time. Perhaps it's about suffering, about facing consequences and choosing differently next time. Humanity nearly destroyed themselves. That taught them things we never learn, because we never came so close to edge. Days passed, ship crossed void, moving through human space, past colonies that survived, past outposts that endured. On 3rd day, they passed New Cascadia, planet hung in space, blue and green and alive, orbital debris from battle still visible. Reminder, warning, tombstone for 42,000 dead. Velkara stood at viewport staring at debris field. I knew some of them, he said quietly. The crews on those ships, friends. I know. They died because we underestimated humanity, because we believed our own propaganda. Yes. How do I serve as ambassador to species that killed them? Theron was quiet for a long moment. You serve by ensuring their deaths meant something, by helping build peace that prevents future deaths, by honoring their sacrifice through wisdom instead of revenge. Ship moved on, left debris field behind, continued towards Sol. On 4th day they arrived. Sol system was smaller than Velkara expected. 1 yellow star, 8 planets, modest by galactic standards. But what humanity built here took his breath away. Orbital platforms circled Earth, hundreds of them, space stations, shipyards, agricultural domes, defense platforms, all connected by traffic streams of shuttles and cargo vessels. Mars showed terraforming signs, atmosphere generators, ice mining, domed cities glowing against red desert, asteroid belt partially harvested, mining operations on scale speaking to centuries of development. And there, high orbit above Earth, massive structures, Guardian fleet. Volcara stared, ships like Revenant, each one 2 kilometers of angular depth, arranged in perfect formation, silent sentinels watching over humanity's birth world. Communication came through, human voice, professional, welcoming. Diplomatic vessel from Galactic Council. This is Sol Traffic Control. We have you on approach vector. You'll be met by escort at lunar orbit. Pilot acknowledged. Adjusted course. Ship moved deeper into system. 2 vessels appeared. Human frigates. Small compared to Guardians, but sleek, well-maintained. Council vessel. This is Captain Octavia Reeves UES Defiant. We'll escort you to orbital station. Welcome to Earth. Volcara recognized name. Captain who held line at Cascadia. Willing to die defending home. Now serving as honor guard for former enemies. Journey to high orbit took 2 hours. Volcara stared at Earth. Beautiful, blue oceans covering most surface. Green and brown continents. White ice at poles. Clouds swirling. Cities visible as light clusters on night side. Living world. Vibrant, full. 8 billion humans. Each living under protection of Guardian ships. Each secure knowing their species would never again be dismissed. Orbital station loomed ahead. Massive structure. Rotating sections for gravity. Docking ports for hundreds of vessels. They docked. Went through customs. Security screening. All professional. Courteous. But thorough. Then escorted to conference chamber. Large room. Floor-to-ceiling windows showing Earth below. Simple furniture. No attempt to intimidate. Captain Korvax was waiting. 38 years old. Black hair touched with gray. Scar on cheekbone. Simple uniform. Silver bar on collar. Standing at military attention. Admiral Voss stood beside him. 58 years old. Gray hair, deep-set eyes, scar on temple. Weight of command visible in every line of weathered face. Both had been at Cascadia. Both witnessed what Guardians could do. Both carried that knowledge like burden. Korvax spoke first. Counselor Theron, Ambassador Volcara, welcome to Earth. I'm Captain Thaddeus Korvax. This is Admiral Nathaniel Voss. We're honored by your presence. Theron bowed. Ancient gesture. Respect between equals. Captain Korvax, Admiral Voss, thank you for receiving us. We come seeking understanding. And peace. Both are welcome here. They sat. Humans on one side of table, galactic delegation on other. Not as enemies, as representatives trying to find common ground. You want to know about Guardians, Voss said. Not question. Statement. Yes, Theron confirmed. Ambassador Ashford revealed their origin, but we seek deeper understanding. Korvax and Voss exchanged glances. Silent communication, years of partnership allowing conversation without words. We'll show you, Korvax said finally. But you need to understand, what you're about to see will change how you view galaxy, how you understand reality. There's no going back. We accept that burden, Theron replied. Then come with us. They took shuttle, small craft, 6 passengers, flying away from Earth, away from orbital station, out toward dark between planets. Volcara watched through viewport, wondering where they were going. Shuttle approached what sensors showed as empty space. Then something appeared. Not ship, not station, something else. Structure that hurt to look at. Geometry bending wrong. Angles existing in more than 3 dimensions. Colors without names. Construct simultaneously seeming ancient beyond measure and fresh as tomorrow. Architect's archive, Voss said quietly. We found it with First Guardian. Intact. Waiting. Shuttle docked. They passed through airlock that shouldn't exist. Into corridors defying physics. Walking through spaces larger inside than outside. Korvax led them to central chamber. Spherical room. Walls showing everything and nothing. Starfields predating current constellations. Nebulae long dispersed. Galaxy as it was millions of years ago. In center. Pedestal. And above it. Holographic display waiting. This is their story, Korvax said. Recorded by architects before they died. They wanted whoever found Guardians to understand. He activated display. Images formed. Alien figures. Beautiful. Terrible. Beings of pure energy contained in crystalline forms. Architects in their prime. Voice spoke. translated by technology beyond human understanding. Female, sorrowful, final. We are the last. Our species dies as we record this, but our story must be preserved. Display showed architects' civilization at height, billions spread across galaxy, building, creating, exploring. They'd achieved what every species dreamed of, perfect harmony between technology and nature, between individual and collective, between power and wisdom. We had everything. We had eternity. We thought nothing could threaten us. Image darkened. Something appeared at galactic edge. Vast, hungry, wrong. Void came. We didn't understand it first. Thought it natural phenomenon. Entropy given form. We were wrong. It was alive, conscious, ancient beyond comprehension, and hungry. Void consumed stars. Entire systems vanishing. Civilizations dying. Architects tried to fight. Conventional weapons. Energy shields. Nothing worked. It fed on everything. Matter, energy, life itself. And it grew. With every star consumed, every world devoured, it became stronger. 50,000 years of war. Display compressed millennia into minutes, showing retreat, desperation, billions dying, empire crumbling. We built guardians, 12 vessels that could manipulate reality itself, create singularities, reverse entropy, fold space, weapons beyond measure, capable of killing even void. Display showed guardians being constructed, same ships now orbiting Earth. Perfect, terrible, ready. We prepared to deploy them, to end void, to save what remained. Voice paused, heavy with sorrow. And then we understood. Void was not invader. It was balance, ancient force maintaining equilibrium. When civilizations grew too advanced, when species threatened fundamental structure of reality, void came, reset things, allowed galaxy to heal. Velkara listened, horror dawning, understanding implication. We realized, fighting void would destroy everything. Weapons we built, guardians, powerful enough to kill void, but using them would tear reality apart. Galaxy would die, all life, all possibility, everything. Displays showed simulations, guardians activating, void dying, and galaxy shattering. Space itself coming apart, stars exploding, planets crumbling, reality collapsing into chaos. We faced choice, use guardians and destroy galaxy, or accept extinction and let other species survive. Architects chose, they built prison, dimensional seal, locked void away, not killed, not destroyed, contained, removed from galaxy without fighting it. Effort killed us, every architect, every individual. We poured ourselves into seal, our life energy, our consciousness, everything we were to save everything else. Display showed them dying, billions of crystalline beings dissolving, essence flowing into dimensional prison, void screaming, raging, but contained. We leave guardians dormant, programmed, waiting, for species worthy of inheriting them. Use them wisely, use them only in defense, never in conquest. Power without wisdom destroys. We learned that truth. We paid price. Don't repeat our mistakes. Voice faded. Display died. Chamber fell silent. Theron stood motionless. 890 years of life. Never seeing anything like this. Never imagining such sacrifice. Velkara had tears running down face. Alien physiology. But grief was universal. Korvac spoke into silence, voice rough with emotion. That's what we found. That's what we inherited. That's why we chose defense. Because architects showed us. Power exists to protect, not to dominate. Voss stepped forward. When we found this, humanity spent 23 years debating. Some wanted to use guardians to conquer. Some wanted to destroy them. Both factions arguing passionately. What changed their minds? Theron asked quietly. A child. Voss smiled slightly, sad expression. 12-year-old girl at public forum. She stood up, asked one question. If architects could sacrifice everything to save species they never met, can't we honor them by protecting species we know? He paused. That question, from child, changed debate, reminded us what mattered. Votes shifted. Restraint won. Korvax gestured at archive walls. This is why we held back at Cascadia. Why we disabled ships instead of destroying them. Why we let Valeri fleet escape. Architects taught us. Strength without wisdom is chaos. Theron moved to pedestal, placed hand on it. Ancient being touching ancient technology. 4.7 million years. They've been gone that long and still teaching us. He looked at Korvax and Voss. Humanity is young, barely 2 centuries in space. But you learned in decades what my species hasn't learned in millennia. That power is responsibility. We had good teachers, Voss said simply. They stood in archive, surrounded by legacy of dead species, learning from sacrifice made before any current civilization existed. Finally, Theron spoke again. I will report this to Council, the truth, all of it, and I will recommend humanity be recognized not just as equals, but as inheritors of architects' wisdom, as guardians, as protectors. We don't seek that recognition, Korvax said. I know. That's why you deserve it. They returned to shuttle, to Earth, to present, but carrying knowledge that changed everything. Earth orbit. 1 year had passed since Cascadia, 12 months of adjustment, of new realities settling. Galactic Council chamber relocated. No longer on Nexus Prime, now rotating location. This session convened on neutral station, built specifically for this purpose, where no species held home advantage, where all stood equal. Ambassador Velkara walked through corridors, 36 years old now, no longer junior officer. Full ambassador, representative of Valari Dominion to galactic community. He carried datapad, report he would deliver. Summary of year's changes. Numbers still amazed him. 18 species joined Human Alliance. Voluntary Association, Mutual Defense Pact, Economic Cooperation, Cultural Exchange. Voron merchants opened full trade. Human technology shared. Voron manufacturing integrated. Combined economy up 43%. Keleth healers exchange medical knowledge. Human genetic therapy meeting as Keleth biological understanding. 17 diseases cured. Life expectancy increased average 28 years. Mara agriculturalists shared farming techniques. Human hydroponics meeting Mara soil science. Crop yields doubled. Famine ended on 4 worlds. Species that cooperated thrived. But there was another list, darker. Species that resisted, that tested humanity's resolve. Velkara remembered reports. Korax hegemony attacked human mining outpost, killed 47 civilians. He'd seen footage. 2 Guardian ships appearing above Korax Prime, massive angular shapes blotting out sun, evacuation shuttles launching, most Korax refusing to board, choosing to fight. Population of 2.3 billion. 4 hours later, 0. Cities burning, oceans boiling, atmosphere stripped, planet rendered lifeless. Warning written in ash and silence. Drell syndicate sabotage trade routes. Human response surgical. Every Drell system shut down. Power grids, communications, transportation offline. Civilization collapsed. Velkara had read casualty estimates. Millions starved in first month. But then human aid arrived. Food, medical supplies, engineers to restore infrastructure. Punishment for government, not for people. Synthetic Collective attempted to hack Guardian systems. Every AI network in collective space froze simultaneously. Dead civilization. Remnants being assisted now. But message was clear. Some lines could not be crossed. Pattern was brutal. Clear. Unambiguous. Cooperate and prosper. Resist and suffer. Velkara entered council chamber. Architecture different. No floating platforms. No hierarchy of height. Everyone at same level. Everyone equal. Theron presided, still, 891 years old now, moving slower, speaking softer, but still present, still wise. Ambassador Velkara, your report. Velkara activated datapad, information displayed for all to see. Honorable counselors, 1 year ago, Galactic Council voted for peace with humanity. 7 species in favor. 5 abstaining, none opposed. I report today on consequences of that choice. He pulled up statistics, economic data, medical reports, agricultural yields. Species that allied with humanity have seen average economic growth of 67%, medical advancement equivalent to 3 decades of normal progress. Food production doubled. Scientific collaboration increased 340%. Numbers spoke for themselves. Species that opposed humanity, he paused. Korax are extinct. Drell are rebuilding under human supervision. Synthetic Collective exists only as remnants. Lesson is clear. Humanity will defend itself, absolutely, without hesitation. He looked around chamber, but they will also help. Drell who starved during system collapse. Humanity sent food, medical supplies, engineers to restore infrastructure. They punished government, not people. They destroyed threat, not civilization. In Korax, someone asked. Korax attempted genocide. Humanity responded proportionally, but offered evacuation opportunities. Only 17% accepted. Rest chose to fight. That was their choice, and their end. Theron leaned forward slightly. What is your recommendation, Ambassador Velkara? Full integration. Complete alliance. Evidence is overwhelming. Cooperation with humanity benefits everyone. Resistance benefits no one. We should formalize what already exists. Debate proceeded, but outcome was inevitable. Pragmatism would win. Finally, Theron called for decision. Formal resolution. Recognize humanity as galactic co-protectors. Equal authority with founding species. Full partnership in galactic governance. Those in favor. 47 platforms illuminated. Green lights. Affirmative. Those opposed. Silence. Darkness. 0 votes against. Abstentions. 3 platforms. Species still uncertain. Resolution passes. 47 in favor. 3 abstaining. None opposed. Humanity is formally recognized as galactic co-protectors. Theron looked at human delegation, Ambassador Ashford, Captain Korvax, Admiral Voss. Ambassador Ashford, does humanity accept this responsibility? Ashford stood, bowed, spoke carefully. Humanity accepts, with humility, with gratitude, and with commitment to principles architects taught us. Power serves life. Strength protects weak. Wisdom guides action. Session concluded. Galaxy had chosen its future. Velkara found himself at observation deck afterward, looking out at stars. Voice spoke behind him. Quite a view. He turned. Captain Korvax, human who destroyed his fleet, standing there, looking at same stars. Velkara's first instinct was anger, grief, but he remembered archive, architect's sacrifice, choice between destruction and protection. It is, he said simply. Korvax moved to stand beside him. I'm sorry, Korvax said quietly, for what happened at Cascadia, for people who died. I know some were your friends. Why apologize? You won, we lost. War is never just about winning and losing. It's about cost. Price paid by people who didn't make decisions. Your friends followed orders. They deserve better. Velkara was quiet for long moments. What's strongest thing in universe? Captain Korvax. Korvax turned to look at him, gray eyes steady. Not ability to destroy, choice not to use it. Architects taught you well. They taught all of us. We just listened. They stood together, human and Valari, former enemies, future partners. Do you think it will last? Velkara asked. This peace, I think we'll make it last because alternative is unacceptable. Because we've all seen what happens when power goes unchecked. Because architects showed us better way. Velkara nodded slowly. I hope you're right. So do I, Ambassador. 3 weeks later, Earth's surface. Theron's ship prepared for departure. Formal ceremonies complete. Treaties signed. New era begun. But Theron requested one more thing. One final experience. Korvax and Voss escorted him down to Earth, to planet itself. First time in 891 years, Theron stood on world with open sky. They landed in meadow, grassland, mountains in distance, stream running nearby, birds singing, wind moving through trees. Simple, beautiful, alive. Theron stepped out of shuttle, felt grass under feet, breathed air that tasted of growing things, looked up at blue sky. 891 years, he said softly. I have lived in space stations, artificial environments. I had forgotten what living world feels like. Children played nearby, human children, running, laughing, building things in dirt. All small chaos of young life. Theron watched them, ancient eyes seeing hope. They don't know, do they, what protects them, what watches while they play. No, Voss said. They know they're safe. That's enough. Korvax pointed to sky, to orbit, where guardian ships hung invisible against stars. Those ships exist so these children can play without fear, so parents can raise families, so old people can tend gardens. That's what guardians protect. Life, in all its messy, chaotic, beautiful forms. Theron sat on rock, felt sun on face, listened to stream, birds, children. Perhaps humanity isn't only species with wisdom, he said finally, but you were first to understand what architects really meant. Power exists to protect moments like this. We learn from best teachers, Korvax replied. They sat together, three beings, different species, different ages, different experiences, but united in understanding. Galaxy had changed. Humanity emerged from obscurity, revealed strength, changed balance of power. But real change was deeper. For first time in galactic history, for first time since architects died, power and wisdom existed in same hands. Not guaranteed to last. Nothing was guaranteed, but it was possible. And possibility was enough. Theron stood eventually. Time to leave, to return to duties, to help build future they'd chosen. Thank you for showing me this, for reminding me what we're protecting. Thank you, counselor, for giving humanity chance, for choosing wisdom over fear. They walked back to shuttle. Behind them, children continued playing. Life continued living. High above, silent, invisible. Guardianships maintained watch. Not weapons of conquest, not tools of empire. Protectors, as architects intended, as humanity chose, as galaxy now understood. Future stretched ahead, unknown, full of challenges, full of possibilities. But for first time in a long time, Galaxy looked at that future with hope. Hope that power could serve life, that strength could protect weak, that wisdom could guide action. Hope that architects' sacrifice had not been in vain. And in meadow on earth, children played in sunlight, unaware, unafraid, protected by guardians they would never see, by defenders who asked nothing in return, by species that learned hardest lesson. Most important truth, strongest force in universe is not power to destroy. It is choice not to use it.